Every day. Probably around like 5 or 6 in the evening. You walk into the exact same building.
Yeah, right after work.
Right after work. You strip off your work clothes, you put on something lightweight, and, you voluntarily place yourself in highly vulnerable physical positions.
And you're surrounded by dozens of complete strangers while you do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And yet, you probably feel completely safe. But behaviorally speaking, if you look at the underlying dynamics of a gym, you have just walked into the perfect psychological trap.
Oh, absolutely.
So welcome to today's deep dive. We are unpacking 3 deeply unsettling, entirely factual accounts sourced from a collection of real-world gym encounters. And our mission here isn't just to, share scary stories.
No, we want to look at the psychology behind it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We are going to deconstruct the specific behavioral red flags that are hidden in plain sight. We want to explore how a predictable, seemingly healthy daily routine can be weaponized against you.
Because it really is like adult recess, right? It's the third place with its own unwritten rules.
Yes, adult recess. That's a perfect way to put it.
Mm-hmm.
So to kick us off, I have to ask, why is it that we let our guard down so universally in this specific environment? Is it the shared endorphins, or is it just the hypnotic comfort of a routine?
Well, it fundamentally comes down to how human beings process predictability. We are heavily pattern-seeking creatures.
Right.
So when we see the exact same faces at the same time in the same place, our brains take a cognitive shortcut. We equate familiarity with safety.
Which makes sense, evolutionarily speaking.
It does. But the gym is an environment built entirely on repetition and, like you said, physical vulnerability. You show up at 6 p.m., you follow the same workout structure, you shower in the same locker room.
Yeah.
And that constant repetition creates what psychologists call a false sense of intimacy with the other regulars.
Oh, wow. A false sense of intimacy.
Yeah, you feel like you know them simply because your brain has categorized them as part of the normal background scenery.
But you don't actually know them at all.
Not at all. And from a behavioral threat assessment standpoint, that strict routine makes it incredibly easy for an obsessive individual to exploit you. They never have to hunt for you.
Because you're just showing up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You are actively delivering yourself to the same location at the exact same time every single day.
Okay, that is a terrifyingly accurate way to frame it. And it completely changes how I view those casual interactions we all have while working out.
It really reframes the whole space.
Because the easiest way for someone to take advantage of that environment is just to weaponize normal gym etiquette. Which brings us to the first account from our sources. Walk us through what happened to Nolan.
So Nolan is your textbook everyday gym goer. He went after work, kept to himself, basically just relied on the routine to decompress.
A totally normal guy.
Right. And sharing that 5 p.m. time slot was a guy named Josh. Now, Josh is described in the sources as someone who was heavily performing an identity. He always wore the fitted shirts, carried the massive gallon water jug, lugged around the heavy duffel bag. He desperately wanted to be perceived as an intense, serious lifter.
Oh, I know the type. The kind of guy who wants to make sure everyone else knows he's working out way harder than they are.
Precisely. And initially, their interactions perfectly mimic standard polite society. It's just the quick head nod across the free weights, the brief eye contact.
Right, because when you see a face that often, the social contract basically dictates that it eventually feels ruder not to acknowledge them than it does to just say hello.
Exactly. Which is where the first microscopic boundary crossing happens. Nolan is on the bench press, and Josh asks for a spot.
Meaning he just needs someone to stand over him and make sure he doesn't drop the heavy weight on his chest, which is, the most common request in any gym.
Yeah, it's totally normal. So Nolan helps him out, but then Josh immediately launches into this rapid-fire, high-energy interrogation.
Like asking personal questions.
Yeah. He's asking about Nolan's workout schedule, where he works, where he lives, and Nolan tries to keep his answers vague, but Josh casually pulls out his phone and just asks for Nolan's Instagram.
Okay, let's unpack this. It's like a social contract gone completely rogue. You give an inch by following someone back on Instagram, and they take a mile by standing outside your bedroom window in the dark.
What's fascinating here is how Josh is leveraging the awkwardness of a physical space.
What do you mean?
Well, Nolan is standing right there. He just did this guy a favor, and denying an Instagram follow feels like an aggressive rejection of a seemingly friendly gesture. It's a micro-commitment.
So Nolan follows him back, probably rationalizing that it's just the modern equivalent of a casual handshake.
Right. But to an obsessive personality, that follow is an open door. Over the next few weeks, Josh starts physically inserting himself into Nolan's personal space at the gym,
Oh, God.
offering unsolicited coaching and just flooding his direct messages with memes.
And Nolan, trying to preserve the peace, just reacts with laughing emojis, keeping it light. But then Josh invites Nolan to a local town festival.
Yeah, food trucks, families, cheap drinks.
Exactly. And Nolan agrees, thinking a quick public hangout will satisfy the guy, right? But the Josh at the festival is entirely different from the Josh at the gym.
How so?
The controlled intensity is just gone. He has absolutely no volume knob. He's slapping Nolan on the shoulder, acting like they've been best friends for 20 years. And this is where it gets really weird. He starts doing these incredibly bizarre voices.
Yes. This is a critical behavioral pivot. The sources detail how Josh would randomly switch into these high-pitched, nasally cartoon voices.
Yeah.
And then he'd drop into these deep, scratchy movie villain whispers.
It's so strange.
But he wasn't telling jokes. He was delivering completely normal sentences and these unhinged impressions very loudly, right in front of families.
Okay, wait, why the voices? I mean, if you're trying to win someone over or build a friendship, drawing uncomfortable public attention to yourself seems completely counterproductive. What is the strategy there?
It actually acts as a behavioral smokescreen. By acting like an exaggerated caricature, Josh is actively testing Nolan's boundaries.
Oh, wow, so it's intentional.
Yes. He is forcing Nolan to tolerate behavior he would normally shut down or walk away from. If Nolan accepts the bizarre voices, he is signaling compliance.
He's testing the waters.
Exactly. Josh is learning exactly how much social discomfort Nolan is willing to endure just to avoid being perceived as rude.
And it culminates when Josh leans in and whispers Nolan's name, just like, Nolan! In this incredibly creepy, theatrical tone.
Yeah.
And Nolan just brushes it off as the byproduct of alcohol and an unfiltered personality, completely missing the underlying hostility.
And because Nolan doesn't cut contact right then, Josh escalates. He invites Nolan to a bar, explicitly stating that it's a double date. He says he's bringing 2 girls.
So Nolan agrees, assuming the presence of women will act as a buffer, normalize the evening.
Right. But when Nolan arrives, Josh is already drinking. 20 minutes pass, no girls, and Joe just casually mentions that they bailed.
Because the girls never existed in the first place.
Exactly. They never existed. This is what threat assessment professionals refer to as a compliance test.
Right.
Josh fabricated a socially acceptable scenario, a double date, to gauge how much control he could exert over Nolan's free time outside the gym.
That is so manipulative.
By getting Nolan to the bar, Josh successfully isolated him. He secured a captive audience.
And that's when the erratic behavior just completely spirals. The voices return louder than before. He's doing fake baby cries in the middle of a crowded bar, actively drawing stares.
Just trying to create maximum discomfort.
Exactly, and continually repeating Nolan's name to anchor Nolan to the humiliation. Nolan finally hits his breaking point, fabricates a story about needing to help his brother with a flat tire, and literally flees the bar.
But by that point, the damage is done. Josh starts tailing Nolan through the gym, station by station. Nolan actually has to change his workout times. He ignores the DMs.
Which causes the stalker to escalate, right?
Yeah.
From the digital and public spheres directly into the victim's private sanctuary.
Yeah.
Nolan is lying in bed, hot summer night. His ground floor window is cracked open. And from the darkness of his own backyard, right outside the screen, he hears that exact same low, drawn-out, scratchy voice from the festival, saying his name.
That is genuinely chilling.
Nolan texts him, demanding to know if he's outside. Josh just replies, no. A few nights later, the voice is back. Nolan threatens to call the police, blocks the number.
Good.
But when he looks through the blinds, he sees a human shadow standing completely still, inches from the glass, blocking the ambient streetlight. Nolan screams, the shadow vanishes, and the next morning, he finds his car tire cleanly slashed.
Notice the trajectory there. Josh leveraged the unspoken rules of polite society, that we don't make a scene, that we laugh off awkwardness, that we offer a spot to a stranger.
Right.
He used all of that to systematically embed himself into Nolan's life. He weaponized Nolan's reluctance to be confrontational.
And Josh's obsession was born inside the gym. He used the environment to build his fixation. But what happens when the gym isn't the origin of the obsession, but simply the most predictable place to trap someone?
That changes the psychology entirely. It shifts the gym from being a social playground to being a targeted hunting ground for collateral conflict.
Okay, let's look at Louis' story. Louis is 22. He works at a Mexican restaurant. And his anchor is hitting the gym every night at 7 p.m., with his 19-year-old best friend, Colton.
Okay.
Now, Colton had recently ended a relationship with a 17-year-old girl named Addie. The sources describe this relationship as highly toxic.
Extremely toxic.
Addie was furious that Colton spent time at the gym. She viewed any time away from her as a threat. So a few weeks post-breakup, Louis and Colton are prepping for their workout. The gym doors open. A girl in a red hoodie and blue leggings walks in.
Clothes.
Yeah, street clothes. She doesn't swipe a card. She doesn't look around. She just stops dead in the middle of the floor and stares directly at the two of them.
The visual disruption of the environment here is key. A gym is inherently a place of kinetic energy. People are lifting, walking, stretching.
Right, everyone is moving.
When someone enters that space and remains entirely static, our brains immediately register it as a threat anomaly.
And she eventually walks into the women's locker room, never breaking eye contact.
Yeah.
Moments later, Louis and Colton hear this unstable, hysterical crying and whispering echoing out of the locker room.
Oh, wow.
It's so loud it cuts right through the noise of the weights in their headphones. 10 minutes pass. She walks back out, wearing the exact same street clothes. She hasn't changed.
She's not there to work out.
No. She just starts drifting through the free weight section, hovering uncomfortably close to their machines, not touching any equipment, just watching them.
Because she isn't there to participate in the shared activity. She is occupying their designated safe space to establish surveillance and dominance.
It severely creeps Louis out, so they cut the workout short and leave. Later that night, Colton texts Louis, asking, what if that was Addie? They try to brush it off as paranoia.
But it wasn't.
No. At 11:30 p.m., the situation detonates. Louis is at his house. He hears knocking on his brother's window, then his window, then aggressive, heavy knocking at the front door.
At 11:30 at night.
Yes. Suddenly, the front doorknob starts shaking violently. This isn't someone casually checking to see if it's unlocked. This is someone actively throwing their weight against the door, trying to rip it open.
That is a home invasion attempt.
And layered perfectly over the sound of this violent shaking is the sound of a girl laughing hysterically.
Which is a psychological terror tactic.
Yeah.
Mixing extreme physical aggression with an emotion completely incongruous to the situation. Laughter is designed purely to induce paralysis and panic in the target.
Louis' phone buzzes. It's a text from an unknown number. The sender tells Louis to leave Colton alone, blames Louis for convincing Colton to end the relationship, and warns that Louis is going to pay the consequences.
And then she sends the picture.
Yes. The very next text is a photograph of Addie holding a knife. Louis' dad immediately calls the police. The cops arrive and find Addie sitting quietly in the grass outside the house, just waiting.
So disturbing.
Wait, hold on. Let me stop you there because I am stuck on the logic of this attack. If Addie is obsessively trying to win Colton back, why is she violently targeting Louis?
It doesn't seem to make sense at first glance.
No, I mean, going to your ex-boyfriend's best friend's house with a knife seems like the absolute worst possible strategy to win back his affection.
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, if we look at the mechanics of an abusive dynamic, this isn't about winning affection at all. It is about isolation.
Isolation.
Yes. Abusive individuals seek to control their targets by systematically severing their lifelines. Addie recognized that Louis and the daily gym routine they shared represented independence for Colton.
Ah, I see. Louis is a safe harbor.
Exactly. By attacking that support system, she is attempting to remove Colton's safe spaces. She wasn't trying to woo her ex, she was trying to terrify his best friend into abandoning him.
So if Louis steps away out of fear, Colton becomes isolated, vulnerable, and infinitely easier to manipulate.
You've got it. That's the goal.
Which makes the lingering mystery of this account deeply unsettling. The sources confirm that neither Louis nor Colton ever gave Addie Louis' home address. Colton was adamant he never shared it.
Right.
So how did a 17-year-old girl track a guy to his exact residential address in the middle of the night? It heavily implies a level of premeditated, silent stalking that happened entirely out of sight, long before the gym encounter.
And that transition from loud, aggressive behavior to silent surveillance leads us directly into our final account.
Yes.
Addie made herself known. She shook doors and sent pictures of weapons. But from a behavioral standpoint, the most terrifying invasions of privacy are the ones you initially fail to notice.
Which takes us from passive observation to active predation. This final source focuses on a 25-year-old woman who had been going to her local LA fitness for years. She's a 6 p.m. regular. She knows the cadence of the room.
She knows what normal looks like.
Exactly. But one evening, she notices a new guy. She's doing squats, glances up at the mirrored wall, and sees him sitting on a chest press machine directly behind her. He's not lifting.
He's just watching.
He's just leaning forward, elbows resting on his knees, staring at her reflection. The next time she works out, she moves to the shoulder press. He is sitting on the lat pull-down machine across the room. The weight stack never moves.
Never.
He just sits, stares, and the exact second she makes eye contact, his head snaps away.
What he is doing here is utilizing the natural camouflage of the gym environment.
Camouflage. Because he's sitting on a machine.
Exactly. Because people require rest periods between sets, sitting idle on a machine doesn't immediately trigger the stranger danger alarms for bystanders.
It makes total sense.
Our brains are wired to filter out stationary objects to focus on movement. He exploits that biological blind spot, using the idle time as a perfect cover for uninterrupted predatory observation.
But the camouflage eventually slips. One night, she's doing squats again, turns around, and catches him holding his smartphone flat against his chest, the camera lens angled directly at her.
He's recording her.
He is secretly recording her. When she catches him, he immediately drops the phone. Later that week, she walks to the water fountain, turns a blind corner, and he is standing silently, just inches away from her.
Oh my God.
He doesn't say a word. He just looks down at the floor and walks past.
Now, that is a critical escalation. He is actively testing her proximity tolerance.
Like seeing how close he can get.
Yes, he is calculating how physically close he can get to her, moving from a distant observer in the mirror to sharing her immediate physical space without her causing a public scene or alerting management.
So she does exactly what every self-defense blog tells you to do.
Yeah.
She alters her routine.
Right.
She abandons her 6 p.m. slot and starts going at 9 p.m., hoping to break the pattern. For a few nights, it seems to work. He's gone. But then on a Saturday night, she goes out with her friends to a crowded, loud downtown bar.
Miles away from the gym.
Miles away. She turns around to grab a drink, and sitting entirely alone at a tiny table against the wall, wearing a dark jacket with a baseball hat pulled low over his eyes, is the gym guy. He's staring directly at her.
The illusion that this was contained to the gym shatters in that exact moment. By appearing at the bar, he is communicating a terrifying message. I have mapped your life outside the facility. I know your social habits.
2 weeks later, the climax hits. She goes for a run on a dirt path in a sprawling, cloudy nature preserve near her neighborhood. About 10 minutes into the trail, she hears footsteps jogging behind her.
And she's isolated.
Completely. She notices the cadence of the steps perfectly matches hers. The distance between them isn't changing. She speeds up her pace. The footsteps behind her speed up.
Terrifying.
She risks a glance over her shoulder. It's a man in a hat, head down. It's him. The adrenaline spikes. She knows there's a dirt exit path a few hundred yards ahead that connects to a main residential street.
So she makes a break for it.
She starts running faster. The footsteps get louder. She hits the exit path and breaks into an absolute dead sprint. And the second she does, the stalker abandons all stealth and breaks into a full aggressive sprint chasing her.
The transition from passive observer to active predator is complete. The camouflage is entirely gone.
She hits the pavement of the street, screaming for help at the top of her lungs. A man standing in his driveway looks over. The second the stalker realizes there is an eyewitness, he stops dead at the tree line, hesitates, and immediately retreats deep into the woods.
Wow.
She never sees him at the gym again. She cancels her membership that day and moves to a completely different facility across town.
I mean, what else can you do?
Right. But here's where it gets really interesting, and frankly, a bit frustrating when we talk about safety strategies. We are always told by experts that if you feel unsafe, you must change your routine.
Yeah, that's standard advice.
But look at what happened here. She changed her gym time, she varied her locations, and he still found her at a random downtown bar on a Saturday night, and he managed to track her down in an isolated nature preserve. Does changing your routine actually keep you safe? Or does it just signal to a stalker that they've been spotted, essentially firing the starting gun on a game of cat and mouse?
This raises an important question. That is the flaw in standard blanket safety advice. Changing your routine is a necessary tactical step, yes, but it falsely assumes the stalker only knows your primary location.
Right, it assumes the gym is the only place they know to look.
Exactly. What this terrifying escalation highlights is the absolute necessity of holistic situational awareness. By the time she changed her gym hours from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m., he had likely already followed her home, mapped her address, and tracked her weekend social habits.
So she was already exposed.
The escalation from a guy sitting silently at a lat pull-down machine to an active physical chase in an isolated woodland area underscores a grim reality. Ignoring the silent observer because you don't want to make a fuss doesn't make them go away. It emboldens them to close the distance.
Which brings us to the core of what we've uncovered today.
Yeah.
Whether it is the overly intense guy weaponizing politeness by asking for a spot, only to end up standing outside your bedroom window.
Yeah.
Or a toxic ex utilizing the kinetic layout of a weight room to establish dominance and isolate a target. Or the silent observer who never moves a single weight, but eventually chases you through the woods. The overarching lesson here is profound.
It really is.
You have to trust your internal threat detection. If a situation or a person's physical proximity feels off to you, it almost always is. You have to be fiercely, unapologetically protective of who you grant access to your life, and you have to be highly critical of how much personal information you freely give away just to adhere to social contracts.
Your safety and your peace of mind should never, ever be compromised simply because you are afraid of appearing rude to a stranger.
So true. If you are listening to this on your commute or on your way to your favorite coffee shop or heading to your usual gym, I want you to look at your daily habits through a slightly different lens today.
Pay attention to your surroundings.
Yes, those routines provide you with immense comfort and stability. But you have to remember that your routine is also a highly detailed map. And it is a map that is incredibly easy to read for anyone who has decided to pay close attention.
And that leads to a final, crucial thought for you to explore on your own.
Oh, like that.
Well, in all of the accounts we analyzed today, the victims ultimately relied on changing their physical routines to try and escape their stalkers. They moved gyms, they took different routes home, they altered their hours.
Right, they tried to become unpredictable.
But in today's hyper-connected ecosystem, you have to ask yourself, how much of your routine is being broadcasted completely invisibly?
Oh, wow, I didn't even think about that.
With fitness tracking apps automatically logging your runs, smartwatches mapping your exact neighborhood routes, and background location sharing features embedded in almost every application we use, could someone trace your new gym schedule or follow your running path through the woods without ever having to physically tail you in a car?
That's a terrifying thought.
As the digital footprint of our physical health habits continues to expand, we have to wonder, does true anonymity in our daily routines even exist anymore?